We are here because we are discussing the summer solstice. And I did touch on this energy briefly in the June cosmic currency that we did, the breakdown for the whole month of June. So you can go back and watch the details and stuff like that. If you are on my new TikTok, then you've been getting these things in pieces, right? You've been getting the different clips from that video as the dates have posted. But we're going to talk about the pentagram, or the star in the sky with all the alignments that are taking place. It includes Lilith, Pluto, the moon, the sun and Jupiter, and Mars. And I'm going to touch on a couple other loose aspects as well that aren't necessarily in the star, but they aspect on it, and so they're important. So the outer aspects, the way that I want you to kind of think about it, is the container, right? It's the container of all of these different choices and directions that we have, because the star contains 3 yads. There's 4 altogether, but there's 3 yads. And these are all choices, right? These are all choice points that we have that put us in the right direction from a spiritual nature. So the container, the pressure cooker, however you wanna call it, on the whole, and I'll get down into like the nitty bitty details of it, but on the whole, the container of energy that we're in, loving our stuff and all we've achieved materially is big, right? We love our stuff, we love what we've achieved, but we're not necessarily focusing on the responsibilities to maintain it like we could, should, would, because we're also kind of wishing we had a different life, right? We're wishing that we had a different life where we can do what feels good all the time without losing those material comforts, and this belief that society has it wrong. So with that being the whole, right? Like we love our stuff, but we don't really want to do what we need to do to maintain all that stuff. Okay, that's the container of energy. The Lilith square Mars is resentment over what we have to do every day. And what we're doing every day, not really creating the radical vision of what we want our life to look like, or what we want the world to look like, right? It's not creating the experience that we actually want and visualize as our highest good. So Mars sextiling the sun and Jupiter, we are doing whatever feels good to get done. We are just doing what feels good. It's like an emotional to-do list. The moon sextile the sun and Jupiter, we do love, that's where the loving our stuff and good food and stability and creature comforts and things like that comes from. We love being able to say that's mine and feel good about what it is that we own, right? It's having emotional attachments to creature comforts, okay? The moon in Taurus square Pluto. We're having a hard time because the stuff, the attachment to the stuff, actually keeps us in a lower vibration as a society, where we have these gross attachments to things that that aren't really important. And when I say they're not really important, I mean, like if you think about society having like designer stuff, like designer stuff is cool. It looks neat, but to make it doesn't always cost any different than making something average or run-of-the-mill or, you know, quote-unquote low-end, whatever. Like leather is the cost of leather, and a bag made with leather is a bag. So why does one cost $20 and another cost $220? Right, when they're both made with leather, and the cost of leather is the cost of leather, you know? So it's like some things aren't necessarily needed the way that it's needed. And this attachment to our stuff kind of keeps us in this low vibe, because we do have to maintain it, but in order to maintain it, you have to work hard. You know, you have to work hard. Your wages or your hours or whatever it is, like, doesn't give you the room to have the luxuries or the comforts that you really want. You know, like maybe you do really love, and I mean love, a $220 bag, but for you to actually get it and bring yourself to spend that kind of money on it just because you love it, like there's a conflict there. Like you can't have what you love or what you've been taught by society to love. You can't have it because, you know, you don't work hard enough, or you don't do enough, you don't make enough, you know, or whatever it is, or you're reliant on other people. Pluto retrograding in Aquarius, sextile Lilith, retrograding in Sag, is maybe society has it wrong, right? Thinking that maybe society has it wrong. It's the future or futuristic perspectives. You know, I wonder what the world would be like if it were like this, you know, and a lot of people, you know, see how technology, especially with Pluto and Aqua, right? How technology is serving big corporate companies because they can afford AI technology, they can afford robots, you know, these big money companies. But, you know, it's all well and good that it makes their life easier, the production of the stuff that we want easier, but it's not helping us on an everyday level, you know, getting the stuff that we want. Like we need a robot to help us do other shit so that we don't have to, you know, like they're not making our job any easier. And it's just, you know, it's a luxury for people in power in society, right? Pluto is power and Aquarius is society. So it's the most powerful in society that are dictating things and using that kind of power for their own benefit, but not really the whole. And that's what we kind of have to go back and reevaluate from the base of life, right? Or the quote unquote bottom. You know, if there's the 1% at the top, then the other 99% got to kind of figure out how we get them, the top one, to do what serves us and not just them. Like, are we not a whole? Are we not one humanity? Like, don't we all deserve to love life and be comfortable and experience cool shit? Like, don't we all deserve to go on a vacation? Some of them live on vacation. It's like, bitch, listen, you know, this is the container. So, you know, loving all our stuff and what we've achieved materially, but not really focusing on what we need to do to maintain it because it sucks. Focusing on that stuff sucks, you know? So that's the container, right? That's the outer aspects of the star in the sky, right? The pentagram in the sky. The inner aspects are the pathways. So we have Lilith in Sag, quincunxing on Jupiter in Cancer. And that is really picturing the life or the future that we love to picture, right? But not knowing how to make it happen, right? Sag is a visionary and it sees the long goal, but its opposite is Gemini, and that's the face value of reality and what needs to get done in the moment to get there, right? Gemini on the opposite side is step one, and Sag on the far end is final step. So, you know, we know what we want, we just don't necessarily know what to do to make it happen. The Sun and Jupiter in Cancer is then quincunxing on Pluto retrograde in Aqua. So this is the radical perspective shift and trusting in your intuition as your power source. So if you can override, right, this not knowing how to make it happen, but trusting your intuition and using it truly as your power source to change your life, that is the path that the Sun and Jupiter quincunx Pluto is creating. Pluto in Aquarius is also quincunxing Mars in Virgo. So acting in alignment, right? Acting in alignment from a spiritual acceptance or higher command, right? It's almost like, in a weird way, listening to the voices in your head and trying not to sound crazy because you're listening to the voices in your head. You know? We've all been inside our head. There are some things we've thought that's fucking crazy. So acting in alignment, right? Doing what you know you need to do to be the change, right? Or create the change or start the change. Sometimes that comes out or through as activism, right? And doing it the correct way, right? Virgo is all about correct. It's about purity. It's about cleansing. It's about the little details being perfect and really taking that shot at doing the correcting to empower the whole. Accepting that you are being divinely driven or divinely guided, right? From a source of energy that is higher than the world is in. Mars in Virgo is also trine the moon in Taurus. This is the only trine. The rest of them are quincunxes. So this is just stuff that's working in your favor. And if you have aspects, early degrees of Taurus or Virgo, or even Capricorn for that matter, like that first few degrees of the sign, the trine is really helping either continuing your routine in a very stable way, or figuring out where you need to just tweak or modify your routine in order to get through what it is you need to get through to achieve what you want to achieve. So it could be like going through your stuff. It could be reprioritizing time in a certain way. It could be, you know, trimming off the fiscal fat. Like, how many apps are you subscribed to on your phone? How many things are you paying for that are just, you know, coming out every month or whatever it is? And you're just like, you know what, do I really need to pay, you know, like $9.99 for a game on my phone? Like, do I really need to invest in, you know, packs or skins or whatever it is? Do I really need to invest in all this stuff? Do I really need this game inside my routine? Is playing on this game, right, and prioritizing this game actually creating the life that I want? Is it fiscally responsible? Is it creating a comfortable life for me? You know, it's like, what am I doing that is taking away from my potential? The moon in Taurus, quincunx on Lilith, retrograde in Sag, it's self-soothing and comforts to create the feeling we see us wanting to have, you know, and realizing that that's exactly what you're doing. Like, staying in that example of the video games, right, or the apps, game apps or whatever. It's not creating a life that is the way you want to feel, but the escape or the joy or the excitement over achievement that the game gives, that is the feeling that you want. And so you're using the game to get the feeling in the moment. But the game is diminishing that feeling from being achieved in the long run. All right. We're self-soothing. And the things that we're self-soothing in are not, they're not helping us out. They're not helping us out, right? With those aspects, right? Those aspects being in play. There's 3 yads, 4th on the outside, which I will talk about. And then there's other paths or triangles created inside the star, right? If you look, like, this is the star here, but there is also a triangle here, right? There is a triangle here. There's a triangle created here, right? There's all these different triangles. And so I looked at all the different paths that the star created. We're going to go over the yads first. There's 3 within the star. The first one, the base of the yad or the sextile, is the moon in Taurus and the sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. They're quincunx, or aiming at the apex, which is Lilith, retrograde in Sag. This direction comes from the premise of us wanting to feel good and create good feelings in our reality, and has us truly looking at a radically different future. How do I obtain what I want to obtain when it looks so radically different? You know, like, maybe you always pictured yourself living van life, but you're beholden to all of your stuff, and you don't really want to get rid of your stuff because you love your stuff, you know, but you really want to go and revamp an RV, you know, or, you know, get yourself a van, or you want to go live like on a plot of land off grid, and you're like, but how do I do all that? Because I don't have the money to even start that up. You know, all these people that live off grid also dropped like thousands of dollars to do it, and we don't have thousands of dollars. You know, like we might not be that person, you know. So it's like wanting to create that feel-good reality, and not just for us, but for the people that we care about. You know, it might not be so radically different. Maybe you just live in an apartment. You know, maybe you just live in an apartment and you really want a house and you want some land and you want pets and you're in this cooped up apartment, you know, or this small house and you want a bigger one. You know, like there's different things where you want something so radically different and you don't know how to create it. Like, how do I get it? You know, it could be the complete opposite, where maybe you've been van life in it and you just want something solid. Well, how do you do that? You know, where do you go? What's the first step to do it? But it's the thoughts. It's the power of visualization. You know, that first yad, to get really into it, you have to believe in the radically different vision that you're seeing and that you can achieve it, and just do what you can do today. Like, sticking with the example of, you want van life and you have something, you know, where you own a lot of stuff. Maybe just look at the stuff you really want to keep and start donating, giving away, throwing out everything else. Like, how can you start to be more fiscally responsible with the moon in Taurus, so that you feel good about the future you're creating? That's the first yad. The second one, the base or the sextile, is the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer sextiling on Mars in Virgo, with the quincunxes aiming at Pluto retrograding in Aquarius. So this yad prioritizes the emotional to-do list because it feels right to. Others might not understand the priority because it's not what they've been taught to prioritize. You are just focusing on what feels good right now. It doesn't necessarily make sense to other people, but it feels good for you. Prioritizing how you want to feel, you know? So that's the second yad, following the emotional to-do list. Other people probably won't understand it, but you do. Okay, especially if you are doing as you're guided, or feel like you're being called, right? You're being called to do it for whatever reason. The third yad, the base or the sextile, is Pluto in Aquarius, sextiling on Lilith and Sag, and they're quincunxing or creating the apex with the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer. This is more of a collective society that you may be feeling and or embodying, but it is major and radical societal shifts into the future we want to create the feelings of safety and security emotionally. Like, we don't want to stress out about where we're going to live. We don't want to stress out about our bills getting paid. We don't want to stress out about our car not getting paid or getting repoed, or our car breaking down and not being able to fix it. Like, we want to radically shift to where the way we feel is created by the structure of the society that we've envisioned, right? That the society we envision can actually create a sense of emotional safety and security, feeling comfortable in this life. Like, your ability to feel those good feelings and that comfort is not being threatened, you know, that you not doing certain things or whatever would jeopardize your feelings that feel good, right? The feel good feelings. Major societal shifts are needed. This apex is there. If you have natural alignments around 4 degrees Sag, or 1 to maybe like 8 degrees Cancer, because Jupiter and the Sun got a wide orb. They got a wide orb. You might even be feeling this if you have like late degree Gemini energy. Or even late degree scorpionic energy, because the sun and moon will aspect on that, even though Lilith's orb is not that great, right? It's like a degree or less. So big shifts, you're probably a part of that process if you have placements, especially significant ones around those degrees, right? In Aquarius or on the cusp of Capricorn, in Cancer, cusp of Gemini, and in Sag, cusp of Scorpio. Okay, you're a part of it. You're a part of the movement. Welcome. You're a part of the movement, right? You are the leaders that create the way. Now, the fourth yod, which is not a part of the star, but yods are a divine direction nonetheless. It's just a divine direction for you, and it's not a part of this mass healing. So it's rough. This yod, and I did talk about it in the cosmic currency, the base is Pluto in Aquarius, sextile Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which are quincunxing to create the apex of Mars in Virgo. It's essentially all malefics, guys. Like, Pluto and Saturn put Mars in its malefic aspect, like, because Mars can be considered neutral depending on what it's aspected to. So it takes a rough edge being connected to Pluto and Saturn and the Delulu of Neptune. It's not a comfortable yod. It's major pain or deep pain that can bring about major shifts. It's the rock bottom, right, that you have to remember is truly the platform from which you soar. Like, when you hit rock bottom, there is nowhere else to go but up from there. And it could feel like being so sick and tired of yourself and society that you're finally doing what you need to do for yourself and the greater good of society, right? From a spiritual perspective, not like government structure perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, right? Where you get so fucking sick and tired of yourself that you force yourself to change because you just can't stand it anymore. From a societal standpoint, very much connected to the No Kings thing that is going on in the States, right? This huge societal rebellion against the structure of what's been created from a seemingly egotistical, arrogant, or dictator-like way, you know, the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. With Pluto, it's like looking at the structure of society and doing what you can do to get it done because you're just so sick and tired of it. You know, you're just so sick and tired of society and the structure that it is. You know, it's not even just about the United States, to be completely fair. Like, to be honest, if we were to truly do it right, we would get rid of borders around the world. You know, it wouldn't be, oh, this person's illegal, that person's illegal, send them back to this trouble, send them back to that drama, send them back to this life. It's like, how about we just don't have any borders? And now no one's illegal anywhere. And people could just go, and there's different culture if you go to different places. But, you know, and if you're a bad person, you're a bad person. It doesn't matter where you are, you're going to get locked up for whatever, or sentenced to life, or whatever it is, you know, like, that society deems is appropriate for you. Like, people are starting to wonder, like, why do we have this gross separation and all of the pain that comes with it? Like, maybe it shouldn't just be the United States. You know, maybe we really do need to tackle the idea of gross control or diluted control, you know, this severe form of narcissism at the top with people in power, because power corrupts and it deludes you, right? The Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, it's diluting. And we really do need to recreate society in a way that works without having people so powerful that it affects the rest of the world and the life of everybody that they will never meet. You know, it's a really difficult separation that we have to bridge that gap, right? We have to bridge that gap. This is rock bottom. Where humanity is at. Like, we've had so many advancements, right? We've come a long way as creators in the material world. But how we govern ourselves is still primitive as fuck. It's still so unevolved, right? So unevolved. So that is the other yod taking place. And it is definitely a painful one, you know, and you got to think, like, all of these people who are out there, you know, protesting and protesting the quote unquote right way, you know, not the rioters or the looters or the vandalists, you know, but the ones who are truly protesting the right way, not interfering with other people who haven't made the choice to protest, but truly standing up for what they believe in. You know, those are the ones that are really going to make the difference, and people are looking at them like, and it sucks to be them in a way, because if they're out protesting for what they believe in, they're not going to work. They're not making money. You know, like, how are they going to afford the way society has been structured? How are they going to afford to keep up the protest and not go back into the very system and support the very system that they feel is broken, right? There's a lot to go on with that yod, and it's a reflection of the greater flaws that we have spiritually on the whole, you know, like, we do only get these moments where we feel like we can defend ourselves before we get pulled right back into what we quote unquote have to do, and what we have to do doesn't support us, you know, and truly what it is that we want. It makes it really difficult to sustain it and maintain it. It makes it difficult to have the voice truly heard in its steady and unwaveringness, right? Now, the other paths, and I'm only going to touch on each of these briefly because there are 8 of them. One is not included in this in the star, the pentagram in the sky. But it does involve Saturn and Neptune, and was worth mentioning because it does aspect on things that are very much a part of the star. The first one, I'll show you which one it is. It is this one right here. All right. That's the moon, sextile the sun and Jupiter, sextile Mars, trining back to the moon. That's the first one. It's organizing, prioritizing, and being able to reminisce as you do it, and feeling lighter when the work is done, right? It is enjoying those creature comforts that you worked long and hard for, and a job well done. You know, it would be like, you know, you need to reorganize your office, or you know, you need to clean out your car, you know, you need to go through your room, or things in the attic or the basement. Like, you really need to go through this stuff because it's just stuff taking up space. And when you finally have gone through it, organized it, you know, figured out what you want to prioritize and keep and what you can let go, like, it feels really good to get it done. Like, really good to get it done. That is probably the most important and the most beneficial aspect of all the different triangles, because there's no squares. There's no squares. It's the only triangle inside that is not a yod, that is all beneficial aspects. Go through your, right? Reminisce on it. Do you need it though? You know, like, do you really want to keep your yearbook from 1994? Is it important? You know, like, is it important? Would you, if you had to minimize and take it with you on a whim, and you could only fit what you had in your car, would that be the thing you take with you? For some of us, maybe. For most of us, probably not, right? Probably not. Going through, you know, your clothes. Maybe you've got a whole closet worth of shit. Maybe, you know, now that it's full-blown summer, you got to put your winter clothes away. You know, it doesn't even make sense at night to wear your fluffy pajama pants, unless you're me, in which case you wear them all year. You know? But it's like, feeling good that you got it done. Okay, I went through this entire season. I went through a whole season without wearing this. Maybe I could donate it, right? And separating it from what you're keeping and getting it done, right? Taking it to wherever you got to take it so that it's done, and not just sitting there in a bag or a box waiting for you to get it done, right? Start to finish completion. Start to finish completion. It feels really, really good to get it all done. And feeling like you can reward yourself after, you know, because you did a good job. Because you did a good job. All right. The next triangle, we have the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer sextiling the Moon. The Moon is squaring Pluto, and Pluto is quincunxing back to the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer. This energy is really asking the question, why do I have to work so much just to enjoy the simple things? Why do I have to work so much just to enjoy the simple things? Wishing society placed more value on creating mass comfort, right? Wishing society really did value creating mass comfort. Having that aspect, you know, like you work really, really hard. And it's not like you work really hard all the time because, you know, you're saving up for this vacation. Sometimes you work really, really hard just so that you can take your kids out to dinner or order takeout. Like sometimes you work really hard just to keep the cable on so that you can sit as a family, or so that you can sit and relax and enjoy your connections to the characters, you know, of your favorite shows. Like, why do you have to work so hard for the little things? You know, like it shouldn't be that hard. I can understand, you know, people can understand if it were harder, you know, to have some grand experience. But to just live with the little things, that's what that triangle is doing. It's asking the questions. The third one, the Moon in Taurus squaring Pluto, Pluto sextiling Lilith, and Lilith quincunxing back to the Moon. The material world, okay, reflects society's choices. Seeing a different future means evolving what brings us material world stability. We know technology is not up to speed with the vision, but we're working on it, right? People are brainstorming, society is brainstorming, okay? Pluto, the fourth one, the fourth triangle. Pluto is sextiling Lilith, squaring Mars, quincunx back to Pluto. The way society is built makes what you want to do hard. It's creating the vision is difficult because societal demands are not structured to support your vision, right? The way society is set up right now, it's really hard to create the vision that you want. Whatever it is that you want in the future for yourself or for humanity on the whole, if we keep doing what we're doing, we'll never get there. And if we don't do what we are meant to do in order to achieve it, there's collapse, right? There's collapse of the vision. Like it's like having to choose one or the other. Do I hold on to the structure that is and try and be happy in the structure that is, even though it sucks? Or do I do what I need to do in order to focus on the society that I want to be built and suffer losses, right? And suffer losses. It's hard, and it's more likely than not that it's the vision that gets sacrificed because we are committed to the structure that we have currently. The fifth triangle, Lilith and Sag is squaring Mars and Virgo, and Mars is sextiling on the Sun and Jupiter, who quincunx back to Lilith. These are the complete, like, get people. So they follow their intuition blindly and throw out the routine. People may say your vision or you are crazy. Like, what the and why the are you not doing what everyone else is doing? Like, how can you be okay with that? You know, and it is just following your intuition blindly and throwing out the routine. You really are going to look crazy. because it makes no sense to people. It probably didn't even make sense to you. You probably hit one of those moments where you're just like, it's fine, we're gonna go with crazy. Some people wake up and choose violence, and other people wake up and choose radically crazy and shifting, right? They woke up and chose to radically shift today and to listen to their intuition and champion that. And it just doesn't make sense to anybody else. So they're getting a lot of resistance because what they're doing, it makes sense to them. It feels good to them, but it's not what everybody else is doing, right? You're definitely putting yourself into that black sheep kind of energy, right? The 6th triangle, mind you, all of these ones are inside the star. I'll go over the one that's not at the end. The 6th one is Mars trine the moon, who's quincunx Lilith, and Lilith is squaring back to Mars. So loving what you do and what it creates for the vision you want to achieve, but what you're doing doesn't actually create the vision. So like, it's like loving your job, right? Or loving your role, loving the hats that you put on, right? All the different hats that you wear, you know, whether it's the mom hat or the coworker hat or the best friend hat or the sister hat, or, you know, whatever hat you're putting on. You love the hats that you wear and what it creates for the vision you're going after. But it's not actually creating the vision. So it would be, you know, for example, you work every day overtime, living in an apartment because you're trying to get a home. And no matter how long you've worked at this job or how many hours you put in or whatever, it's still not yielding you being able to get out of that apartment, right? No matter what you do, you always end up not actually achieving what it is that you want. Or maybe you love going out with your friends, you love drinking, you love all this and that, and you're single, you know, you really are just living your best life and you want a partner, but the partner that you want doesn't necessarily want the partner that you are. Right? With all of the things that you're doing, like they might want someone more serious, you know, or maybe you're too serious, right? It could be the opposite. It depends on who you are and what you're looking for. It could be the opposite, you know, where you're too serious and they want someone who can get a little loose sometimes and have fun, you know? So whatever it is you're doing, it creates your vision, or you're doing it to create your vision, but your vision is not achievable. Okay, but your vision is not achievable doing what you're doing. You just think it is. The 7th one, the 7th triangle, the moon in Taurus squares Pluto, who quincunxes Mars, and then Mars trines back to the moon. So this is the recognition that society doesn't care about how you feel or if you're comfortable. Society doesn't care, right? What it demands of you matches the current state of your energy or your vibration. So whenever you seek comfort, you're met with resistance because your actual energy doesn't vibrate at a place that is comfortable. So seeking comfort, you're met with resistance. It's like, who told you could relax? It's that vibe. Like, who told you could relax? Working hard and being perfect are the only ways to be stable and deserve being quote unquote lazy. You need to earn being comfortable by being uncomfortable. Like, what? What? I need to earn being comfortable by being uncomfortable. Like, that sounds ridiculous when you put it that way. You know, like, it would be like a person working all day and all week just to have a couple hours off to themselves and disappear from the world and do whatever they want to do. You know, I deserve to relax. I worked my ass off, you know, or I accomplished so much. I deserve to relax. And it's like, who told you you can relax? Who told you you were allowed to have a moment of earned laziness? Like, did you work as hard as I did? You know, and it becomes this competition, right? Because it's Mars. It becomes a competition over who did what and who actually is deserving of relaxing, you know? Well, this still needs to get done. I worked harder than you, so you can get it done. You haven't earned it yet. I have, right? It's that mentality. It's not good. That's something taught in society. That is something that was nurtured into us, right? That is something that was nurtured into us. That's the moon square Pluto. It's not necessarily correct. It's just something that we've been taught as society, right? If you are not working hard, if you are not working the hardest, you do not deserve to take a break. You could, should, would be doing more. You know, you could, should, would be doing more. So things in the mindset of society that need to shift, and we need to focus on that, right? We need to focus on that, and that we need to start making those changes, right? Now, the last triangle that I want to talk about, the one that is not included in the star, but still a very big energy nonetheless, is Mars in Virgo, sextiling on the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer, squaring Saturn and Neptune, who quincunxes back to Mars. This energy it creates a serious conflict with the self and who we've been. The structure that we've succumbed to, right? The power and the control, the diluted or way blown out of control power and control that we've succumbed to. And it sucks, right? And it sucks. It's, you know, knowing that if you follow the beat of your own drum, it could cost you. It could make you feel lost, crazy, rejected, unloved, a disappointment, you know, not just to those around you, but to society. But that's the very feeling you are battling to overcome from within your soul, you know? You're tired of feeling like following your authenticity is a damnable offense, you know? You're tired of feeling lost in the world and not knowing your purpose. You're tired of feeling crazy in the everyday. Like, this is what I have to do every day to live. This is what, you know, is supposed to make me happy. Like, this is the goal. You know, you're feeling crazy. You feel rejected and unloved, not just by yourself, but by life, you know, but by life. Like, life isn't loving you back the way that you want to feel loved. So, you know, being inside that third triangle, or what that path is bringing up, you know, it's really being conflicted because you hate yourself for not being authentic. But if you were to be authentic, that's like blasphemous, you know, like you don't do that. You don't do that. It's like marking yourself a weirdo. Welcome to my family. Welcome to my soul family. We're all fucking spiritual weirdos here. We got something going right, though. I'm sitting here happy as shit. So, I don't know. But, you know, it is what it is. And these are the energies going on with this solstice. And because it's the solstice energy, it's going to carry through the season, right? It's not just what's going on right now. This is where the sun entered into the season. I do want to, now that I've got rid of my notes for just the star, there was one other aspect that I wanted to talk about. And it's interesting because people born today are going to really have a hard time with this. It's going to be one of those divine discomforts that creates gross change later, or mass change later. So there's divine direction, right? Divine direction with the yods. And then there's this divine downfall. This divine downfall of a triangle formation. It's created by squares and two sesquiquadrates, so all three aspects are challenges. The base of the triangle is the square. It's from Saturn and Neptune squaring the Sun and Jupiter conjunction in Cancer. And they're both sesquiquadrating on the apex of the triangle, which is Juno retrograding in Scorpio. This is crazy. Quote unquote, death of the label, you know, really being over and done with contractual labels, especially marriage. People born today are going to really struggle inside marriages and things like that, or even labels like parent, right? Labels like parent could be a struggle. They know they want to feel that loving nurturance, but they don't want to deal with diluted egos or control. And so there's this desire to be wildly independent. And if you're not in alignment with that, it is going to feel very uncomfortable. You know, having labels forced on you, having expectations and obligations forced on you, having other people having control over you. You, like, if you're married with kids, you can't just go up and take a road trip for a couple days. You know, you have to consult with other people. Well, what did they have planned? What are their needs? You know, like, you can't just follow the beat of your own drum, because you have these labels or obligations attached to them. And so there's this, how do I love myself, right? How do I love myself when, you know, being those labels is what is acceptable in society? You know, people who are married are considered in a higher light than people who are divorced. You know, it's like, oh, you're divorced, like, oh, you're married, like, you know what I mean? There's a difference between how you're viewed as a woman, right, who chooses to be a mother and have children, versus the woman who chooses to never have kids. It's like, but you're a woman, you don't want to have kids. Or you're a mother, you don't enjoy being a mother? You don't love your kids? And it's like, listen, it's not that I don't love my kids. It's just I don't like the loss of freedom. I don't like the loss of freedom. You know, it's being up against these things where, you know, you want to be happy or feel loved by other people. But that requires the labels and submitting to the labels and that diluted control of Saturn, Neptune. And it makes it really hard because you feel like people can't love you if you choose against what they've obligated themselves to, or what they deemed as worthy of sacrificing for, right? Divine discomfort in that. And ultimately, like I said, that is what we're feeling today, right? Feeling the rejection of the labels and the expectations today. And fast forward 20, 30 years from now, these are the people who are going to be rejecting those labels outright. They're going to be rejecting those labels outright. They are not going to want to be controlled. They're not going to want to be tied down to obligation and feeling like they are property or they are owned by their situation. So take it for what it is, guys. That is the summer solstice 2025. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've caught it live, I hope you enjoyed it. If you've caught in the replay. Caught? We're going to make words up today. We're going to make words up today. Okay. All right. I love you guys, and I will see you for the moon event on the 25th. I will be live for the moon event. If you do want your own personal reading with me, that is the time to do it. That is the best way to do it. It will be streamed live on YouTube, and I'll see you then. Take care, guys.